If everybody can get seated, we'll get started. As a quick reminder, we are being streamed live over the internet. So, watch your microphones and whatever you have to say. Please use your microphone when you want to speak so everybody can hear you, including those on the internet. And at this time, I ask everybody to silence their cell phones. Let's get started. Would you call the roll for your committee, please? We're going to start the Louisiana Tuition Trust Authority meeting. Who is? Okay.
Commissioner Reed? Here. Regent Adley? Regent Chabert?
Here.
Senator Plater?
Here.
Regent DeVee?
Here.
Regent Ewing?
Here.
Regent Kenny? Regent Levy? Regent McDonald?
Here.
Regent Meyer?
Present.
Ms. Mirza? Here. Regent Perez? Here. Regent Pryor? Regent Seal?
Here.
Regent Solomon?
Here.
Regent Temple?
Here.
Regent Tucson? Regent Wills?
Here.
Mr. Williams? Regent Wyatt? You have a quorum.
Commissioners?
Okay, so we have quorum, and I'll ask Dr. Boutte to step us through the agenda items.
Okay. The first issue would be approval of the minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Do I hear?
So,
Go ahead. Motion? Is there a second?
second.
There is a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Any objection? Approved. Proceed.
We have two consent agenda items today, members. To add the interest rate for both the earnings enhancements accounts and the principal protection accounts for the year ending December 31st, 2018. Basically, you are accepting these interest rates because this is determined by the Treasurer's Office. The second amount of rulemaking is to be able to delete the requirement in both START and START K-12 for individuals to be able to provide Social Security numbers when they are requesting a disbursement. So this is basically a practice that we do, and we're codifying in rule that we are eliminating that requirement with respect to disbursements. Certainly individuals provide that when they open up an account, but there is no need for them to continue to tell us that each time they make a disbursement.
Those are the consent agenda items. Is there any objection or any concern about the consent agenda items? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner, would you like us under other business to give you an update on the statistics for START?
Yes,
START
please.
K-12 and ABLE? Okay,
Yes.
it indicated that. Okay, in the START particular program, we have a total of 63,752 active accounts. That amounts to 32,206 unduplicated account owners because, again, an account owner can have multiple accounts, with a total of 59,412 unduplicated beneficiaries. The START total assets is over $900 million, so we are approaching $1 billion with respect to START. With respect to the ABLE accounts, ABLE is starting to show growth. We have a total of 200 ABLE accounts at this particular point in time. And Regents, you approved account administrators on behalf of individuals at an earlier meeting. We have a total of 110 accounts that have administrators that help the disabled person to be able to administer that account.
Director Boutte, can you speak to what ABLE is? for those
Yes.
members?
ABLE is akin to a 529. Under the tax laws, it's a 529A. This is for the purpose of individuals with disabilities being able to open up accounts not limited to higher education expenses. This could be refurbishing a home. This could be personal care in the home. This could even be funeral expenses. So it's a much broader ability to be able to save and not have one be penalized from other benefits that you get for Social Security disability. So this is our same START staff administers the START program, the ABLE account program, as well as the START K-12 program. START K-12 is basically what that says. This is an addition to the tax laws that allow you now to save in an account, in an investment account, to be able to pay for K-12 tuition. The major difference here is, again, it has to be for K-12 tuition, but those accounts, both START, K-12, and ABLE, do not have the earnings enhancements and the tax benefits associated with them from the state perspective that both the START program has. So that's a major difference. START K-12 is currently at 311 total accounts. This year, calendar year 2019, individuals that want to be able to pay tuition using this type of account must open up START K-12 accounts. Last year, for those of you who were on the board at that time, you know that we had a grace period that the legislature allowed for those individuals while we were able to get the programming up. For individuals who wanted to use their regular START accounts to be able to pay K-12 tuition, that was for 1 calendar year only. That period has ended, and so now individuals that desire to do that would need to open up a START K-12 account.
Members, you've heard the update. Are there any questions on ABLE, START, or START K-12?
Can that fund be used for daycare,
No, it's kindergarten.
even if
Starting
it's a
kindergarten.
certified Class A daycare?
Yes, sir. And we were asked that question when it first was passed, if preschool could be added, and not at this time.
Any other questions or comments?
That
All right,
concludes
thank
our
you very
business.
much. Any other business to come before this committee?
No, ma'am.
All right, motion to adjourn? So moved. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Okay. Senator Clay, you want to give us any words of wisdom before this session starts?
I don't have any.
Well, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care now.
What's that? Yeah. All right, let's move on to our committee meetings. First meeting is Academic and Student Affairs. Regent Temple, would you please call your committee to order? I think we're waiting on Miss Lola. Oh, okay.
There we go. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to call the Academic Student Affairs Committee meeting to order. Dr. Denby, how you doing today?
Well, thanks.
Will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Regent Temple,
Here?
Regent David,
Here.
Regent Adley, Regent Kenny, Regent Pryor,
Here.
Regent Solomon,
Here.
Regent Wyatt, LCTCS representative, LSU representative,
Here.
Southern University representative,
Here.
and University of Louisiana representative.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great. Our first item is item 3, the consent agenda. Dr. Denby, please present it.
Yes, sir. Our first slide, though, is just a review of the main items that this committee considers, and today we will be talking about the first one, approving a proposed new program. The proposed new program is a master's degree. Graduate programs by policy are submitted to an external reviewer for review before they are presented to you. And programs that are approved by you are approved conditionally until they have been able to demonstrate viability. So we ask for periodic progress reports. But our first item, as you said, is the consent agenda, which consists of staff approvals, progress reports, and letters of intent and proposals in the queue. And senior staff recommend that the committee approve the consent agenda.
All members, you've heard the recommendations for this item. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, second.
Second.
Any question or discussion? Okay, motion passes. Next item, academic programs. Program proposal.
Yes, sir. We have one program proposal for you today. It is a proposal for a Master of Music Education from the University of Louisiana Monroe. ULM's proposed Master of Music Education is a summer-only, on-campus program designed for in-service teachers who seek to improve their teaching and musicianship in the convenience of 3 summer terms. It's modeled after a strong MME summer program at Florida State. ULM's program has an 8-credit Common Core, after which students will focus on either choral or instrumental music. Each student will pass a comprehensive exam to graduate, and they will be stronger, better teachers. But they'll also be prepared for doctoral work if they choose to pursue a doctoral degree in music. The proposal was very favorably reviewed by Dr. Jessica Napoles, Associate Professor and Master's Coordinator in Music Education at the University of North Texas. And senior staff recommends that the committee conditionally approve the proposed Master of Music Education at UL in Monroe, and a progress report will be due in September of 2021.
Great. So members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve
So
this
moved.
item? So
Second.
moved. Second. I have a question.
Okay?
What other, what other programs similar to this exist in our state?
We do have 3 Masters of Music which include music education, but we don't have any like this, where that's targeted specifically at teachers so they can continue teaching in their regular jobs because they're off in the summer, and they can work on this during the summer.
Right, and put themselves in a position to move towards, if they choose to, that doctorate degree.
They may if they wish to. But this is unique in the summer type offering,
Okay.
and it also is a neat opportunity for teachers of music to be able to make music together with other musicians. So
Okay.
it's a nice program for teacher
Great,
education.
Great. So is there any other business to come before this committee?
No, sir.
All right, hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next, we'll call Facilities and Properties Committee to order. Regent Mir, would you please call your committee to order?
I would like to call the Facilities and Properties Committee meeting to order. Mr. Herring, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Chair Meyer,
Present.
Vice Chair Temple,
Here.
Regent David,
Here.
Regent Ewing,
Here.
Regent Kinney, Regent Lyle,
Here.
Supervisor Werner,
Here.
Supervisor Donahoe,
Here.
Supervisor Tarver,
Here.
LCTCS representative. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Chris. As what's been going on in the last several months with our committees, we're going to ask Chris to give a little background on Facilities and Properties.
Again, this slide highlights what the Facilities and Property Committee is responsible for. Today, we had the consent agenda consisting of 3 small capital projects and 1 small third-party project. Staff may approve, similar to the small capital project process, smaller third-party projects that do not require the issuance of debt. Those third-party projects still will come before the board. And the second agenda item is an Act 959 project. This allows institutions to pursue capital projects outside the capital outlay process that don't exceed $5 million, as long as it's not funded with general obligation bonds or general fund monies, and we have one of those requests today as well. And with that, I'll move on to the consent agenda. Again, it involves 3 small capital projects and 1 third-party project at ULM. And if there are no questions, we recommend approval.
Committee members, the consent agenda has been presented. Are there any questions on the ready? Can I receive a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move.
The motion, Second to approve the consent agenda. Any questions already? All in favor say aye. In opposition, ayes have it. Moving on to agenda item number 4.
Agenda item 4 is the 959 project. This is a request from LSU, excuse me, to build a boulevard entrance into their innovation park, which is down Highway 30 or Nicholson. The project cost is $1.8 million. They're funding it with a combination of grants from the U.S. Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration, a grant from Louisiana Economic Development, and the Research Park Corporation is contributing $200,000 to the total as well. The project involves site preparation, subsurface drainage, the boulevard entrance, obviously, and the turn lanes on LA 30 to get you into the property. This will be a direct entrance point to the facility once it's completed. The institution will not incur any debt as a result of this project, and we request approval.
Okay, we've heard the presentation by, for Act 959. We have a recommendation by senior staff. Can I get a motion for approval? We have a motion second to approve Act 959 for the Louisiana State University Board of Supervisors on behalf of Louisiana State University to construct a roadway. Any questions on the readiness? All in favor say aye. Aye. In opposition, ayes have it. Is there anything else to come before facilities and properties?
No, sir.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion second. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Meyer. Next, we're going to call the Finance Committee to order. Regent David, would you please, where are you, on the right side?
I'm right here, yeah, on the right side for the first time. Okay, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order. Mr. LeBruyere, gosh dog it. You know, we got a Chabert and a David and a LeBruyere. This ought to be a francophone meeting. Right? Mr. LeBruyere, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Chair David,
Here.
Vice Chair Ewing,
Here.
Regent Adley, Regent Levy, Regent Pryor,
Here.
Regent Seal,
Here.
Regent Solomon,
Here.
Regent Temple,
Here.
LCTCS representative, LSU representative,
Here.
Southern representative,
Here.
University of Louisiana system representative.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Why don't you give some background on the Finance Committee?
Sure. So the Finance Committee fulfills the board's constitutional role requirement to review annual budget proposals for the operating and capital needs. That's done at the September meeting. The committee administers the funding formula and sets guidelines for preparing campus budgets. We will do part of that today. And the committee reviews and approves budget distributions for all institutions based on the appropriations. And that's done at the June meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move to item 3 on the agenda, review and approval of the financial year 2019-2020 preliminary funding recommendation. And tell our board why we're taking this up now kind of prematurely when in June I think we'll have the final numbers.
Yes, sir. So revised statute 173129F requires that the Board of Regents submit a formula for distribution of funds to the legislature by March 31st. And so this is fulfilling our requirement to do such.
And these are just the preliminary numbers. We don't know the real numbers, I guess, until June or so after the session, and then we'll be able to apply the formula to the actual numbers.
Correct. The funds in front of you today are based on HB 105, which is the appropriations bill for FY20. And so if you look at the chart, it's the same, it's the total funds that we have in the current year. HB 105 is based on the existing operating budget for FY19, and so this reflects FY20 as well. And so the only change is within the 4 systems, and that is based on the preliminary funding formula run that has been done.
Okay. Is there a recommendation from senior staff?
Yes, sir. So senior staff recommends that the Finance Committee approve the funding recommendation for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Any questions right now? Go ahead.
Well,
Pull your microphone, please.
These priorities that are listed, the governor had come up with another appropriation, I believe, for a couple of community colleges and possibly additional funding for the only state pharmacy school. Were they included in this, or is this something that will come up later?
That'll come up later. The funds you're referring to are for supplemental appropriation
Yeah.
in the current year.
Okay, thank you.
And members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve this preliminary funding recommendation, knowing we're coming back in June to talk about the final numbers?
So moved.
Second? All righty. Any further discussion or questions? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes. Now, any other business, Mr. Brouillet?
Yes, sir. Other business I'd like to discuss, first, the REC process that'll go through and our priorities that will follow after that. REC is scheduled to meet at the beginning of April 10th. And so if a recommendation is approved for a forecast, then there'll be additional money that could be added to HB 105. And so with that, I've provided you a list of our priorities for the upcoming year. There's a 2% salary increase for faculty and unclassified staff at all institutions. That's $32.7 million. The mandated cost increase is $21 million. And then the following three rows are what was included in the governor's proposed budget that is not included in HB 105. So that includes the increased amount for TOPS, the administrative adjustment for TOPS, the increased funding for higher education at $6.2 million, and then the increase to the specialized institutions that total $4.5 million.
Thank you. Any questions about that? All righty. Is there any other business to come before the Finance Committee? Hearing none, we will now move for adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
We got a second? All right. Any discussion? We're adjourned. No, any discussion?
All right, moving right along to the next committee, be the Legislative Committee. Chairman Ewing, would you please call your committee to order?
Well, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to call the Legislative Committee to order and have Mr. Adams call the roll.
Okay.
Is this on?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Call the roll. Chairman Ewing.
Here.
Vice Chair McDonald.
Here.
Regent Adley. Regent David.
Here.
Regent Levy. Regent Perez.
Here.
Regent Temple.
Here.
LSU Representative.
Here.
UL System Representative.
Present.
Present. Southern System Representative.
Here.
LCTCS Representative. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Prior to turning the conversation over to Mr. Adams, I'd like to just make a few comments. I've enjoyed visiting with him. He came up all the way to North Louisiana. Don't know if he got nosebleed or not, but anyway, he came up there, and we had a very good visit. We identified issues that we expect to come before the legislature this year. We talked about key players in the process that we will need to be contacting, and I appreciate all that our commissioner has done in trying to cultivate them. I also reached out to Mr. Appel, Senator Appel, to find out if he's going to still try to do away with us, and I think he's given that idea up. And he likes our commissioner. He thinks that we're being more relevant, and he wants to work with us. Invited to take me out to lunch at McDonald's. And but we did talk about several things, of course, the budget being primary, dual enrollment, follow up on, and then we followed up with a conference between the chairman and Matt and myself, and we reaffirmed what our agenda for today would be. I have reached out to Blade Marsh, to Conrad Appel, and I'm going to meet with Representative Landry just to, not to carry our agenda so much, but just to get a face in front of people so when we see each other, it's not the first time that we're there asking for something, but we've kind of maybe gotten to know people on a better frame. The people that I've talked to and the legislators, they feel that Dr. Reed will be a real asset for us in the legislature this year in presenting our program and proposal. I think that we're going to take an approach of trying to build common ground and not have an us and them type situation, which should benefit us. And then there's a lot of common ground out there for sure. I don't know of anything else that I need to say. We may have to take one action today, and that is to authorize our chair and our commissioner to speak for us in the legislature. Are those things that we need to do today? I think that's the only action item that we have. But now I'll turn it over to you to tell us what's going on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it, and I'm excited to report to you today. And you're right, so the purpose of this meeting is really to give the board an overview of the legislative session, the session calendar, our agenda, and then any relevant bills that have been pre-filed. And then you'll have a motion to consider, which is the authorization, and then finally, in other business, I'll provide just a brief update of what's going on at the federal level. So to begin looking at the session calendar and sort of the parameters of the session, this is an odd numbered year, so it's a fiscal session. That means that members are going to have 5 non-fiscal general bills that they can file, and those must be pre-filed. The pre-filed date is Friday, so you'll see a lot of the pre-filed bills rolling in even as we speak up until Friday. So with the deadline to pre-file approaching, you'll have your pre-filed bills, and then members can file fiscal bills up to 10 days past the start of the session. So moving along, as you see, this is really a summary slide of our legislative package, and I'll just begin by saying over the past couple of months, the commissioner mentioned in board development that she's really traveled the state, obviously, to all our institutions and met with the legislators. I've also gone out really on my own and met with at the district offices of each education committee member of the House and the Senate side, so I'll be finishing those up. I have about 2 or 3 left before the beginning of session. That's really just to receive input from them, feedback on how we're doing, and go over our legislative agenda to really be in front of them in person. So I'll walk through each of our bills in the next few slides in depth and just tell you that our goal with each of these bills is to build a consensus by the time it gets to the committee table and we have a hearing, so things will really be smooth sailing in terms of that. So lastly, on this slide, we will provide the board with the bill numbers, the draft of the legislation itself, and then really a one-pager of talking points for all of you as you go out. So the first bill I'd like to talk about is our dual enrollment bill authored by Senator Blade Morris, the chairman of Senate Education. And I really just begin with the challenge, as many of you know, currently a lack of a statewide framework for dual enrollment and funding means we have limited participation, especially in rural areas of the state, as well as our economically disadvantaged students. And we know that students in some districts participate in dual enrollment at no cost, while in other districts that cost is taken care of by the district. So the results are varied in access based upon where students live. And so we certainly believe that dual enrollment access should not be determined by a student's geography. And we also know that students who earn early college credit in high school are more likely to achieve success in college and a career. So that's really the impetus for this bill, and it would task Regents and Bessie with creating and implementing a statewide framework for dual enrollment to guarantee access to interested and eligible dual enrollment for students and juniors and seniors in high school by fall of next year, 2020. In addition, so the districts are going to notify all high school students of opportunities for dual enrollment, assist them in finding the relevant courses, and provide wraparound services for the student in partnership with our institutions. So this is a statewide affordability effort. It will help students understand that college is an option for them, and it's going to save them time and money towards earning a college credential. So lastly, the draft was created with input from the governor's office, from the Department of Education, from the relevant associations, national policy groups. So again, our goal is to have a consensus bill, and I think we're on the right track with this, and we'll have that. So the next bill I'd like to talk about is a proprietary school law rewrite, and this is by Representative Julie Emerson. This is going to eliminate some ambiguity and redundancy in the current proprietary school statute, as well as promote consumer protection. So, as you know, Regents is the licensing agency for proprietary schools, which are just private enterprises that offer and sell courses of instruction to prepare folks for gainful employment. Just so you're aware, we have about 154 proprietary schools licensed by Regents and about 19,000 students currently enrolled, so fairly significant. And Regents also serves as the consumer protection function and a custodian for student records in the case of school closure. Regents staff worked with LCTCS and other proprietary schools to make sure students were taught out and that their tuition dollars were not lost. And this is essentially, I want to let the board know, this is a collaborative and transparent process. We sent the initial draft out to all the proprietary schools in February. Our staff met with the proprietary school associations last week and have had ongoing discussions. So again, there was opportunity for public comment at a recent advisory commission meeting. So we want to try to work out all the kinks by the time it gets to the hearing. So in conclusion, it represents a much needed update to the statute and adds some consumer protection for the students. Next bill is by Representative Barbara Carpenter. It would make amendments to the law regarding the Campus Climate Sexual Assault Survey. So in 2015, a law was passed by Senator Morrell that would require institutions to submit an annual survey to students to check on the campus climate of sexual assault on our campuses. So after 3 years of information and data compiled by Regents from the institutions, we found some issues, and essentially the results that we got were statistically inadequate. Okay, so there was an issue there, and what we found out from best practices and what's happening around the states is you have to look out for survey fatigue, sensitivity to sensitive topic, right, like sexual assault. So the amendments are brought in a fashion to require that administration happen every 3 years rather than every year. We need a little flexibility in the law to develop the survey in accordance with best practices. And then another thing we found from other states and national groups is that you should look to make the survey a component of additional campus safety surveys if that institution administers those. So we believe we'll capture a wider student experience there. We'll have more participation and make sure that we can see what's going on campus to enhance policies in that regard. So the next bill I'd like to talk about is a bill on open education resources or affordable education resources. An example of this would be e-textbooks, but open resources can be a lot of things. Set the context, as you know, Lewis, the library network, has been heavily engaged in this effort by providing competitive grants to faculty at our various institutions, public and private, and they've touched over 70,000 students already. Saved students $6 million just on these efforts alone. So this is really an enhancement of that. And to give you a bit about the challenge of what students are facing, high costs of textbooks are negatively impacting access, success, and completion. We know that the annual cost of textbooks for a full-time student is $1,288 a year. When these resources are out there, it's really unacceptable. So we find that 2/3 of the students simply don't buy the required course materials because of the cost of the books. So the legislation seeks to help that issue, and the crux of it is this: we will work with the institutions to have on their course listings which courses have open or affordable educational resources available. So students should be able to know what they're going to pay for books at the time that they schedule the course. I think it's a logical way to do it, and it's happened in other states, and there's been success with that. So that's
If
one.
fully implemented, what savings would there amount to?
Sure. So we know that the full sticker price of textbooks based on the number of full-time students in Louisiana is about $209 million. So when we've already had around $6 million in savings just based on some of the efforts of our institutions in Lewis, we think that the savings could be significant. And what we have tied the definition of affordable in the law to is 4 times the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage, which means that for a full-time student, they could work 1 week part-time in a minimum wage job and afford all of their course materials if an open or affordable resource were available.
But if a student average cost is $1,288.
That's correct.
Do we have a feel for what it would be if this program were implemented?
Well, I think it would be, let's see, there's $150 if every course that they take was affordable, had affordable resources available. Is that inaccurate?
That's tremendous. Yeah.
Terry, anything you want to add?
Yeah, please.
That's what I like about our team, the bullpen's always ready.
Right.
Matt's
Put me in,
done a
Coach.
great
Put me
job
in,
here.
Coach.
We're looking at shaving off about $5,000 in student debt over the course of a 4-year experience. We have many high-quality resources out there across the state. The community and technical college system has made great strides in using these OER materials. And then the LSU campus has done a phenomenal job introducing library-owned resources onto the campus to address the problem from that strategy. So this looks at the problem from both areas. We're going to provide open, we're going to provide affordable, and we're doing it for the students, and the faculty are ready to do it too.
That's excellent information to have as you're testifying during session.
Really is.
And I will also mention that we did brief, Harold and Nikki did brief our Council of Student Body Presidents, because you do see in other states that the OER push is driven by the student body presidents or the student leaders. So we do want to make sure that they're well informed and are able to speak on it if they would like to do so. I know Dr. Crane is in the audience, and Southeastern has a long history of textbook rental. But they're unique in the state in that sense. And so we're trying to figure out how else can we tackle these college completion issues, because as Matt mentioned, too many of our students do not show up with the book. And if they have the materials on day one, then we know that they can do amazing things. So we don't want the affordability of the books or lack of affordability to hinder their success. But we appreciate what Southeastern is able to do with textbook rental. We think this is a good way to marry that focus on affordability. All right, thank you, Terry.
Okay, if there are no other questions on that bill, I'll move on to the next, which is a bill regarding a LUMCON and Lewis carry forwards, so Louisiana Marine Universities and Marine Consortium and the Lewis Network, which we just talked about. Their challenge is that they have member institutions that pay in to their operations for the service that they provide, and sometimes those payments come in at odd times on when the fiscal year falls, so they have the necessity of, they have to carry over those funds. That is usually Terrence's shop that requests it and makes sure that it's in the preamble of it, House Bill 1, so we'd like to avoid that annual effort and just say let's have a permanent fix to this, and so that is essentially what the bill does. So the last instrument that I'll talk about is a work-based learning resolution authored by Senator Appel. And this would create a commission made up of K-12, higher ed, business, and industry folks to address our workforce shortages, our high rates of poverty, by developing a framework for establishing work-based learning opportunities that are going to include career and college readiness in high school. So really what we'll be doing is asset mapping existing programs, forging partnerships between business and industry, coordinating across state and local agencies to recommend a plan by the legislative session next year. Just some context, our challenge in Louisiana, as many of you know, is we have one of the highest poverty rates at about 18%. Many of those individuals who live and raise children in poverty simply do not have the work skills or the credentials necessary for employment careers that have a family supporting wage. And they also don't have the means to attend college in a lot of cases. So we also know that industry is grappling with a shortage of qualified, credentialed workers in booming fields. And related to some of the points that were mentioned in board development, employers often find a gap between the education students are receiving and the skills that are necessary in the workforce. So for our economy to grow successfully, the state's got to ensure that citizens can obtain the skills and credentials that they need, and we need to hear from business to do that. So the approach is to have these programs, which are work-based learning programs, and they're a proven method for aiding and developing the economy by closing these skills gaps and employer needs. And if you ask any bank CEO or manufacturing CEO in Switzerland or Germany, they'll likely tell you that they started out in an apprenticeship program. So that's what we're after, these earn and learn models that are a financially viable path for students and workers to and through college. So in conclusion, this really represents a systemic approach to blurring the lines between K-12, higher education, and business, and is really going to help move the needle on our attainment goal. And that concludes my report of those bills. Were there any questions on our bills or our package in general?
Any question? Regent Seal?
Matt, what are your plans for updating the Regents members on the progress of these bills as they move through the House and Senate?
Sure. So a couple of things. I will provide regular email updates, likely on a weekly or an as-needed basis on how our bills are doing, where they are in the process, and where we'd like to go in the next steps. And then also by email communication, just any pre-filed bills that are impacting higher education, you'll get in that one update. Then naturally we have monthly board meetings. Well, I will, every time during session, we'll give you a verbal update and a report for the.
And the pre-filed bills are all due by Friday, huh?
That's correct. That's correct. And we've met that deadline. All of our requests are in, and they will be popping up probably tomorrow or Friday on the public domain.
Who in the House and in the Senate will be handling the bills that we're going to push forward?
Sure. So I'll go back to the summary slide. So our dual enrollment bill is going to be Chairman Morrish.
Okay, I see that now.
Proprietary School, Julie Emerson. Representative Barbara Carpenter has our sexual assault bill. Senator Walsworth has got our open and affordable educational resources bill. Representative Jerome Zarang has our carried forward. And then on work-based learning, we've got Senator Appel. We've got a lot of interest on several of them for co-authors, so we'll be going down that road as well.
Thank you.
So if there are no other questions on our bills, I will just, I have this slide here, which is really just a summary of some bills that have been pre-filed already, just to give you an idea. And I'll mention that you see House Bill 89 by Representative McMahon is the Northwest bill, which we talked about at the last board meeting, so that has already been filed. And if there are no other questions, I'm going to go a little bit more in depth at the next meeting based on bills that are pre-filed as the deadline passes and we have all those in. So if there are no other questions on those bills, then I'd like to, ask the chairman to consider the authorization for the 2019 regular legislative session. And senior staff recommends that the legislative committee authorize the commissioner of higher education and the chairman to act on behalf of the board to pursue the agenda and any other issues that are going to arise during the legislative session.
Okay, you heard the recommendation that we authorize our commissioner to act on behalf of the Board of Regents before the legislature. Is there any objection to that motion?
So moved, and no objection.
Second.
Okay, second. Okay, none objection, then that is, you just go out there and talk to them.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Not to me, though.
I know it's kind of far to look down and see me waving my hand.
I can see you.
I'd like to know how are we coordinating this legislative initiative with the other systems throughout the state of Louisiana. Are you going to have regular meetings? I know once upon a time you did that. Do you still continue to do that with the representatives from the various systems?
Yes, sir. We do have regular meetings, so the commissioner certainly meets with the presidents. I meet with my system counterparts, and then, during session, we even have a meeting every 2 weeks with the institutional and system representatives here at the Board of Regents, and then I'm really have a call on the other weekends with the system folks if we're not meeting in person. So yes, we're still having those regular meetings.
Thank you.
Are there any other items of action, any other action items that we need to take up?
I have other business if we're in that phase yet.
Okay, all right. Any questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Not on this. Is this motion passed? I moved this over.
There really wasn't a motion on that. The motion passed to authorize her
So
to speak. Now, what motion are you talking about?
I'm not talking about motion, just another business.
Well, you can make one if you want to.
And this is my annual call, and Matt, I'd love you to work with the commissioner. If anyway, I think our next meeting is April 24th. And I don't know what it would be. It could be maybe one of these issues. You could work with the leadership to have a committee hearing on that day at a time that works for this board. I feel like, me excluded, I'm just a small-time lawyer in Lafayette, but there's so there are so many heavyweights on this board, former legislators, titans of industry, and I don't think we weaponize that enough by taking us collectively and going across the street and talking to our legislative friends together. And whether that be for a committee hearing, or whether that be for a hearing to talk about this amazing plan that our commissioners put together across the street in their backyard, a little field trip, I think it'd be really neat to do that when we're all together, if we can somehow coordinate that.
Absolutely, totally agree. We'll look for opportunities to do that when we have a bill on that week, and agree that we have obviously a lot of influencers on the board, a lot of former legislators, so it'd be very helpful.
And I think our next meeting, April 24th, is a joint Bessie meeting as well. So how neat would that be to have some kind of hearing across the street to talk about our plan for how to make Louisiana better through education if we all did it together as one voice.
Absolutely.
Good point. Very good point. Are there any other comments?
So in other business, I just have some federal
You do?
items.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
And I'll be brief. Just a couple
No,
of things.
go right
So
ahead.
the president, as many of you know, signed an executive order last week. This is President Trump stating the purpose of the resolution was to enhance the quality of post-secondary education, making it more affordable, transparent, and accountable in terms of student access, and the promotion of free expression on college campuses. Now, primarily, the order aims to hold colleges that receive federal research funding accountable for protecting free speech. However, the order doesn't really indicate how the enforcement would work. So our attorney, Uma, has distributed the executive order to her counterparts, and they're going to await federal guidance on how that particular piece is going to work, and to provide clarity in that regard. But the other piece of the order, which was notable, also requires the Education Department to publish in the college scorecard student outcomes data for each program at an institution, rather than listing the average outcomes by institution as a whole. So this outcomes data I'm speaking of would include earnings upon graduation, student debt, loan repayment, things of that nature. And this really signals that the president is sort of joining a broader bipartisan movement to shift towards program level outcomes. And in this shift, every college would be unbundled down to the program level. And Congress is really signaling this trend towards program level accountability. I just flagged this for the board. There's broad bipartisan support we find for the College Transparency Act that Senator Cassidy is currently carrying, and its focus to move more on employment and outcomes. So just something to keep on your mind, and I'll provide another update when we have more information on that. Second, and really the last thing, since I mentioned College Transparency Act previously, is it's Higher Education Act reauthorization. It's been 11 years since Congress has overhauled the Higher Education Act, which really is the law that governs the majority of federal programs in higher education. And naturally, we find our economy requires an increase in the number of individuals with a credential, but federal policies governing our enterprise were really designed during a time when many students are graduating high school went directly to a four-year or a trade school. So the policy needs to catch up with today's students and shift from a focus of higher education to higher learning and training beyond high school that leads to a degree or credential. So to that end, I just want to mention that while in Washington, D.C., the commissioner met with staff of Senator Lamar Alexander and Representative Bobby Scott. These are the two chairmen of the committees that handle higher education legislation. And so she shared ideas and provide some input on what a reauthorization should look like to support today's students. And we've been communicating back and forth with their staff, so it's been very fruitful. And I look forward to updating the board as those conversations continue. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or any comments? We've got a work in progress that we will just have to monitor, and I think that Matt is on top of that, and he will keep us posted in regard to issues that are coming before us. We've heard kind of the plan that we have and the legislation that we will be involved with. After tomorrow, I guess we'll know, or Friday, we'll know more. So we'll just move on. If there are no questions or comments, is there a motion to adjourn? Charlie, is that a motion? Gotcha. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any objection to adjournment? Not so. Mr. Chairman, we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next, moving right along, we can go to Statewide Programs Committee. We have Mr. Levy is absent, and so is Senator Tennyson. So I'm asked Regent Temple to chair this, and I'm going to appoint Regent Solomon and Regent Weil to be on that committee to make sure we have a quorum.
Thank you, Chair Chabert. I'd like to call the Statewide Programs Committee to order. Dr. Boutte, will you call the roll, please, ma'am?
Certainly, thank you. Chairman Levy, Vice Chairman Tennyson, Regent McDonald,
Here.
Regent Pryor,
Here.
Regent Seal,
Here.
Regent Temple,
Here?
Regent Wyatt.
Here.
You ask Regent Weil. Regent Weil as well?
Weil,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Weil and Solomon.
And Regent Solomon.
Here.
Okay. We do have a quorum, members.
Thank you. Our first item is item 3 on the
where we work with youth aging out of foster care and provide college access scholarships to them. We administer this program in partnership with DCFS. It is a federal program, so we jointly administer it, and through collaboration with DCFS, we've been able to actually open up our systems to each other, where schools can actually place potential students into the queue. DCFS can go into our system and confirm eligibility, and LOSFA can pay the bill. We have actually also altered the way that we pay. Normally, you don't bill for a student in TOPS or go until after the 14th class day. But for students who are aging out of foster care, we know that there is no safety net there for those students, which means that they are able to bill sooner. So again, just giving you updates and tidbits on things that you are asking about in the master plan to let you know that those are moving along. This is actually final rulemaking. You approved the original notice of intent at your September meeting.
Great. So, members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Move second. Okay, any discussion? All right, motion carries. Any other business?
Yes, sir. You
Lot
have
high.
3 consent agenda items. It's a little bit longer this time, different categories. This one is rulemaking as well. It's a little bit more lengthy because it has several categories. All of these have to do with the scholarship and grant program. So the first thing that we're doing for rulemaking is to be able to update definitions. We no longer need the definition of program year, so we're removing that from our rules. We're also updating the definition of selective enrollment to include students who are enrolling in technical programs. For example, if I'm enrolling in a rad tech program and it's limited and I can't get into that program until, let's say, the fall, right? Then we don't want to cancel a student's TOPS because they weren't able to enroll that spring. If they've taken all of their prerequisites, then we certainly would want them to allow to be able to start that program at the proper time. So those are the 2 that we're doing with respect to definitions. Then the next ones are that you approve exceptional circumstances. There will be exceptional circumstances at the next agenda item coming up. Those are usually subjective, meaning there's no set documentation that you can provide for those. We are proposing to move from subjective to objective several categories for TOPS exceptions. The reason we are doing that is because each of these categories has become objective. Every time this exception comes up, we ask for the same documentation for the students, and the students provide the same documentation. So that's no longer a subjective criteria. For example, military spouse. Spouse is in the military and I would like to follow them. Not following them into a battle zone, but that's straight piecework. You can either provide their orders or you can't. The next one is unavailability of courses. I've completed over 75% of my coursework. Coursework isn't available. Why would we tell a child you have to go enroll in basketball to cancel your TOPS? That's additional debt for the student and just doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's the second one. The next one is natural disaster. Students affected by the flood, you're asking for the same type of documentation each time. So this is what this one does. The last category in this, one is a clarification and two is an addition. The first one is for students can get paternity leave and maternity leave. So for those males that are requesting a paternal exception for TOPS, we are requiring now that they have a letter from the mother that specifies that they are indeed helping to care for the child. In other words, you shouldn't be asking for paternal leave if you are not participating in the care of the child. So that's what this one does. The last one is to be able to extend the deadline for those students that are active duty military if they're requesting an exception. Generally, an exception is the time that we notify you, you're getting ready to be canceled for TOPS. You have 6 months from the date of that time to get your exception in, or that's it. Now, if you're on active duty military and you need an exception, then what we've done is to say, that's really not fair for that deadline. If that kid's still stationed somewhere, then how exactly would they be getting that notice? So we've moved that to 6 months from the time that they are finished with active duty. So the advisory committee, the LOSF Advisory Board, has reviewed all of these consent agenda items, and they have recommended approval. The last one is approval of exceptions. Those are these subjective exceptions, and we are asking that you approve these as well. Again, advisory committee approves each of these and reviews each of these cases, and then we bring them to you as Regents for final approval.
All right, so,
That's
all right. So you heard the recommendations for the second two. We have a motion and a second. Okay, any discussion?
I have a
Yes,
question.
sir. Both of you, go ahead.
You want to go first?
Solid.
So on, the rulemaking clarifies that when a male student requests an exception based on the parental leave, he must provide a letter from the mother of the child verifying that he's assisting in the care of that child.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In my own personal life, I will not have a mother for my child. I'm a family that's going to be two men be caring for a
Yes,
child.
okay.
How will that work?
We could, I think the same way. I mean, if they have custody of the
single
child,
parent.
somebody has to have custody of the child. So if they're both requesting paternal leave because they're both caring for the child, then they would both certify. The person that has primary custody would say, they would provide us proof of that. And then the person that's secondary saying, okay, I'm also providing care, then we would do the same thing. We can actually, I can have her look at the wording because this is notice of intent to see if she can make it fit
Right.
multiple
So a single male
circumstances.
parent would qualify for that
Yes.
without having to have
Yes.
a dual parent household. Thank you.
Are you comfortable with your verification process on all of these exceptions?
Yes, sir. We are. We have an internal committee that reviews these, composed of auditors and program specialists and public information folks that are on the phone from folks that audit the schools. After that internal committee approves these, then they go to the advisory board, which is primarily composed of folks from the school level, financial aid directors, high school counselors, former members of the LIQ system, so people that are actually very close to the work, and they question these as well. So yes, sir, we are.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Hang on a second. So on that, the deal with the child custody issue, if the father has a custody order from a judge, would that suffice rather than the child's mother's
He's providing care. This is just in instances where, let's say I am a father and the mother has, and we're not married, or even if we are and we're separated, to prevent a student from requesting an exception for being off from TOPS and they're not involved in that child's life at all. That's really the basis of this.
I understand the basis. I'm just trying to get through what does the father have to prove that he is involved in the life without, the mother could be mad at him for whatever reason, such as a new girlfriend or.
Then if the mother's mad at him for whatever reason, but he can prove otherwise that he's providing care, then our team would work with them on that.
Thank you.
Yes. there's not a whole bunch of things with TOPS that we haven't seen where circumstances in our staff here. So they're very, very good at working. We have a single set of dedicated staff that this is all they do. So they've heard lots of stories. When parents call us with tears, we tell them to dry them. It's probably nothing I haven't heard before, so they're not alone. So it's okay.
Great. Lively discussion. Any other discussion?
We have one other business item, if you would.
One other.
Yes, sir, one other, I promise you. Okay? This is, Ms. Blanchard was kind enough to send out the link to the Block High School video yesterday evening. Hopefully you as Regents were able to view that. If you were not able to view it, we would strongly encourage you to do so. We found it extremely disturbing and quite compelling. When you talked about your master plan today, and there were several of you that talked about the need for mentoring, the need for preparation, the need to be able to reach students when they were in high school, the need to be able to reach disenfranchised students, students who were not motivated at all. And thank you, Regent Temple, for saying this is what LOSFA does, because this is what we have a team of dedicated individuals to do every day. So these, and even we were highly dismayed when we saw the Block video. It is disturbing. So you know what to do. Block was not definitely on our radar screen, even though we know that there are other Block high schools out there. So when you see students telling you the kinds of things here, I might go into the Army because I don't think I'm mentally prepared for college. I just don't want to really go through that struggle. I've learned so much. Without them, LOSFA, I'd be lost. I'm glad LOSFA stepped in. I used to be embarrassed to be a Block High student, but now I feel like people are listening to us and we're getting what we need. So basically here we're bringing you, we try each committee to bring you in other business a glimpse of the types of things that for us are not just words on a page, right? That's wonderful to write it down. We're about the business of getting it done on a daily basis for students who have what seem to be insurmountable barriers to college access, let alone success. Without intervening, intensive intervening, these students will never make it to your gateway to be able to get your financial aid. We're trying to get them to the college access door, whatever that might be. Whether that might be the military, 2-year, 4-year certificate credential, whatever is the best match for them. And above all things, we are not fans of cookie cutter pushing children into areas where they are undermatched. We're quite passionate about not doing that. There are students in this school, in these schools that have 10, 11, and 12 ACTs and they're seniors. And yes, we have to go up there and address that and provide them with hope. We also have students in this school who would qualify for TOPS opportunity, except someone let them change their pathway. So now they change from the TOPS university pathway to the Jumpstart pathway. And no one advised them that that's a bad move because you just reduced the amount of dollars that you could get for financial aid. So again, bringing you this, but bringing you the hope that says that we've also gone through and provided services. So I'll just give you a brief overview of Block is one school. Sicily Island, when we talked to the principal at Block, he said, well, we'll accept services at Block, but you got to go down the street to Sicily Island because I used to be principal there and they need help as well. So this is in Catahoula Parish in Jonesville, Block is. And just so that you'll know, we went to Block. Block has basically 204 students, 48th graders, 49th graders, 42 10th graders, 42 11th graders, and 40 12th graders. 78.92% economically disadvantaged population at Block. So when we went, in a matter of 2 or 3 days, we did TOPS and financial literacy workshops. We did match and fit sessions. We took a busload of Block students to Grambling University, probably the first time many of them had been on a campus of higher education, for our financial literacy for you tour and to get services as to how they could get admitted to Grambling, what it takes to do that. We did a LCAM, Louisiana College Application Month, with Block High School, even though we did that for the rest of them in October. Well, we did it again for Block because we did not know about their plight. We did FAFSA completion. We found in March that many of them had not filed the FAFSA yet. And no, it's might be late, but it's not too late. We did FAFSA completion advising, helping them to understand match and fit, which university, where can you get in, what does it cost, how do you maximize gift aid, minimize loan debt. We also are in the process of contracting for ACT boot camps. If you have a 10 or 11 or a 12, ACT boot camp is not going to cut it, and you're a senior. So when my staff came to me with that, I'm like, we didn't go up there to breed despair. You went up there to bring hope. So what are we going to do? We're going to do work keys boot camps or work keys, and we're going to do AccuPlacer to see what can you do to show this kid the options that they have. We've done the same thing with Sicily Island, and hear me read just a little bit more when they apply to colleges. Here's a list: Southern, Louisiana Tech, ULM, Baton Rouge Community College, Grambling, Louisiana Delta, Central Louisiana Technical Community College, Central Piedmont, Alcorn, East Mississippi Community College, Blue Cliff, LSU Alexandria, Northwestern, ULL, Bossier Parish Community College, and LSU. All of those meaning that our staff sat there and did one-on-one, line-by-line guidance with the FAFSA and guidance with match and fit. Not just, I want to go to LSU, can you get in? And what financial aid is there? All of those things are wraparound. So we only serving block. We'll end on this note. No, we are not. We are currently with a combination of federal funding through the Gear Up program and the state funding that you so generously give us. And if you would like to give us more, I will serve more students. It's an unashamed commercial for what we do. We're currently serving 35,106 students in 68 schools and in 18 school districts. Those are not A schools. Those are failing D and F schools, or C sliding rapidly towards D, and in every single one of them, the percentage or the proportion of disadvantaged students outpaces the state average. In many of them, they are 78%, and some of them they're as high as in the high 90th% of economically disadvantaged students. So again, just a little taste, we'll continue to bring you that. The mentoring question, our A2I, Aspire to Inspire mentoring program, started at 40 students. It's currently at 335. Those are referred, and those are disenfranchised students, meaning ankle bracelets, being abused at home, being threatened with being put out, perhaps stealing, perhaps not going to class, perhaps not achieving, and we have seen remarkable turnarounds as a result of we are using near peers, students who have gone through the program, that are now enrolled in college, primarily African American males. Some are African American females. Some are Caucasian females. And we have a combination of those plus tutors, because you can't do it without academic preparation, that are going in and hitting the social and emotional side and the academic side. And there's an A2I luncheon coming up, and those of you that are interested, the commissioner has graciously agreed to be able to kick that luncheon off, where we actually pay to bring them in and honor them and select a mentee of the year. Our current mentees of the year are persisting and rolling along in post-secondary. I think we should probably have sophomores, juniors, and maybe even a senior that have persisted. So a wonderful day. We would love for you all to be able to join us and see and hear some of these stories up front. And Regent Temple, thank you so much for humoring us. That's it.
Yes, let me just add one other question. Obviously, what prompted laws for getting the block high were protests.
Yes, sir. We saw the
by
video on
students.
Facebook.
Right. So how long ago did they have a formal protest that prompted you all's involvement?
The minute we saw the protest, actually Brittany Francis, our communications director, came to my office one day and said, have you seen this? I said, I'm not on Facebook. What did I see? She showed me the video, to which, if you haven't seen it, it will give you chills and make you think it's 1965 again. That's how horrific it is. And we said, okay, we have a phrase in our office, so what, now what? So it's like, and what are we going to do? Not just, as the commissioner aptly says, admire the problem. We're not in that business. So we took a team, contacted Block and said, are you interested? Because you cannot, I think, Regent McDonald, you mentioned it, you can lead a horse to water, but if there's no interest in receiving the services from the administration, then it's very difficult for us to get into a school and help the children that are there if the administration's blocking the door. It's just the fact of life. So we made those contacts. We went, and in a matter of days, my staff is telling me that children are already texting us saying, and when are you coming back? Because these are kids that when you tell them, baby, we're going to be there, yeah, they haven't seen a whole bunch of that. And when we keep showing up, it's like, ooh, so you did what you said you were doing. You really are real. Yes, indeed we are, because if you don't, you lose your credibility. And you're right, you're getting nowhere fast with them. So again, the peer mentoring is working. How can we expand that? As Regent Lipsy recommended, more boots on the ground. So, yes, sir. But that's how we did it. And Sicily Island was, I think, the next week. We went to meet with them, and we've done the same services for Sicily Island as we're doing for Block, and we are scheduled to go back and return.
Great. So is there any other business to come before the statewide programs committee?
Regent Temple, should we defer that one item and look at it again next month once the language is clarified? And I'm willing to, that one item on item 3B, I think that Regent Pryor and I had some questions about. Should we look at it again next month to make sure that the language is addressed?
The consent agenda item on the,
Consent agenda on the parenting?
yeah, so whatever you'd like, you can approve it subject to the amendments that you have specified, and then we can certainly send it back to you to make sure that you've seen that we've made that change. So whatever is the will of the committee.
The body would be.
Would you be good with that?
I'd be good with that. And I'm willing to assist in looking at the language
Sure,
before it
that's
goes back
fine.
to the
That's
committee.
fine.
And maybe Regent
Robin
Pryor, if he
Lively
wants to look at it too.
can get with you directly and send it to you.
Great.
We'll communicate with you through Ms.
Thank
Blanchard. Regent Pryor, would you like to see it as well?
I'd like to see it, but I was fine with your answer.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We'll be happy to do that. So you want us to recraft the language, send it to you, and then if you're okay with it, then continue on with the
Yes.
notice of intent?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand correctly what we need to do.
Thank you.
Conditionally approval. Conditional approval.
Yes, sir.
Subject to the amendments that are needed.
Yes, sir. Not a problem. We'll get on it today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so hearing, motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Second? Second, okay.
All right, thank you, Regent Temple. The next committee is Planning, Research, and Performance. We short on this committee too, and I'm gonna appoint Regent Temple, Regent Seal, and Regent Meyer to that committee. Regent Perez, would you please call your, Chairman Perez, would you please call your committee to order?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call the Planning, Research, and Performance Committee to order. Dr. Denby, will you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Regent Adley? Regent Perez?
Here.
Regent David?
Here.
Regent Ewing?
Here.
Regent Levy? Regent McDonald?
Here.
Regent Pryor?
Here.
Regent Tennyson? We do have a quorum. Do you want me to add those other three?
Oh, you do have a quorum? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, then we don't need them then. Didn't last long.
Next time.
Moving right along.
First, we have a review of the major items that come before Planning and Research and Performance. Today, we just have consent agendas that deal with institutional licensure, which include proprietary schools, academic degree granting institutions, and SARA institutions.
Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda items, please? Second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Is there any other business to come before the Planning, Research, and Performance Committee today? Hearing none, we'll now move to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Chairman Perez. Next, we're going to move on to the Audit Committee. Chairman Seal, would you please call your committee to order?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call the Audit Committee meeting to order. And Commissioner Reed, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Seal?
Here.
Vice Chair Wyatt. Regent Adley. Regent Levy. Regent McDonald.
Here.
Regent Meyer.
Present.
Regent Wild.
Here.
Quorum. And we have a quorum.
Thank you. We have, let's see, is Elizabeth here?
Elizabeth, yes.
Good. Would you come join it? Pull up a chair, make yourself comfortable. Members of the committee, I'd like to introduce to you Elizabeth Bourgeois, who is Assistant Commissioner and is our auditor, as well as Laura Swallow and Anna Krivik. And is Kristen here? Okay. Kristen Burke from Postal Way to Netterville, who are our contracted auditors for our internal audit. So the first item that we have on the agenda today is a discussion of the approval of the second engagement that Postal Way.
Thank you, Regent Seal. So we have risk assessment for year 2 involved, and then we would also like to present the proposed risk-based internal audit plan for contract year 2 for your approval today. So at a very high level, the objective of facilitating the internal audit risk assessment is to help us develop a risk-based internal audit plan for the agency. This allows us to stay compliant with the Louisiana Revised Statute that requires that the agency has the internal audit function established and in compliance with the Institute of Internal Audit, International Standards for Professional Practice of Internal Auditing, or as we call them, IIA standards. High-level procedures that we performed included interviewing select members of management to gain further understanding of high-risk areas for the Board of Regents, including LOSFA and LOMCON. In those conversations, we leveraged the results of our year 1 risk assessment and really dove a little bit deeper to really understand where's the risk for the agency and what are those areas where we should spend our time in the upcoming year. As a result of all of those conversations, we are here today to present the proposed internal audit plan for contract year 2. Contract year 2 started March 1st of this year and will run through February 29th of 2020. As you can see here, outcomes-based formula was prioritized as in the high-risk category and is the first auditable activity on our proposed internal audit plan. What we propose to do is to perform walkthroughs and procedures to really get a good understanding of this whole process. What are the inputs? What is the process around calculating the allocations? And then come back to the audit committee in June with the results of our internal audit procedures. At that time, we would come back and we would reconsider what the remainder of our internal audit plan for year 2 should look like, considering the risk, as well as the remaining budget for our contract year 2. We also wanted to give you some idea as to what are some of the other high-risk areas that have bubbled up through our risk assessment process this year. And as you can see here, we had personnel and HR as one of the areas, and our procedures would truly cover all 3 agencies because some of the procedures are centralized at LOSFA, but there are also certain procedures that are unique to each agency when it comes to this process. And then another area is the information security related to Board of Regents information technology. One additional item that I want to add is that in addition to the areas that are included on the internal audit plan, we will also perform a follow-up procedures for those internal audits that we performed in year 1 and really The objective of those procedures would be to follow up on the management action plans and make sure that the risks that have been identified have been appropriately mitigated for the agency. This may also include any audit findings from the Louisiana legislative auditors, and we'll perform those procedures as needed.
So let me ask you, with regard to the first year of the audit engagement, is your firm satisfied with the cooperation that it received from the Board of Regents staff?
Absolutely. We had a wonderful experience working on all the audits that were included in our internal audit plan. And just to refresh your memory, last year we performed 3 audits. We performed P-card audit, followed by LOSFA TOPS eligibility and renewals, and also LOSFA related financial aid special programs. And we absolutely received cooperation and all the information requested. And then more importantly, when we had exit meetings, management had come up with action plans to remediate any observations we noted.
And with regard to the budget for the 3-year contract, at the completion of the first year, are we still reasonably within the scope of the approved budget?
We are. We are where we had hoped we would be at this point in time.
Are there questions from members of the committee? You've heard the recommendation for the approval of the second year of the audit plan. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there objection to the motion? Without objection, then that motion is approved, and we'll proceed with the second part of the report.
Put your mic closer, please.
Thank you.
Members of the committee, the legislative auditor's report was issued on Monday. There were no indication of any fraud or misappropriation. The LOSFA program is responsible for our accounting and our financial reporting functions for all of the Board of Regents. Mr. Brett Hunt from LOSFA, our Director of Fiscal and Administrative Services is here. And of course, Dr. Boutte is here to answer your questions.
God, the acronym.
Brett, would you like to begin with discussing the audit findings?
Sure. We obviously take the audit findings very seriously. We've taken precaution to make sure that they don't happen again. We've updated procedures.
Speak in the mic, but please.
We've updated procedures and policies. And the biggest takeaway is that with the help of the Legislative Auditor's Office, all of the reports were correct and accurate by the time they were actually turned in and finalized.
Dr. Boutte, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Sir, I think the main takeaway is that this is an issue of which page a budget item or a line item was reported on, as opposed to not a line item being missing, not money being not reported or not accounted for. And once all of the powers that be got on the same page as to which page it was supposed to be on, LOS will put it on the correct page, and we'll do so going forward. So as Mr. Hunt said, all of this was corrected before it was submitted to the feds.
And members of the committee, I've passed out a document called Guide to Acronyms found in the Legislative Auditor's Report. And I want you to know that we are, in this committee, we are in an acronym-free zone. This was prepared by Elizabeth Bourgeois at my request, because I cannot hold these acronyms in my mind long enough to contemplate them. So keep that in your permanent binder. Is there any other comment or discussion or questions from Elizabeth or anyone else today concerning the audit findings? Is there a motion that the audit finding report be approved?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It's been moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Is there objection to the motion? Without objection, then that motion is adopted. Is there any other business to come before the Audit Committee?
No, sir.
Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion's been made and seconded. Is there objection to that motion? Without objection, that motion is approved and we are adjourned.
Thank you, Regent Seal. We are about 30 minutes ahead. We're going to take a 10-minute water break and come back in 10 minutes. I'm going to bang the gavel and we'll get started.
We know you'll bang the gavel.
We will do that.
We know
Thank-
you'll do that.
Thank you all.
We had two bells. They said if I will hear it, look like we're gonna get that.
Thank you so much. Do we have everybody here? Who we wait. They didn't hear the hammer.
I don't know how.
Wasn't for lack of trying.
It wasn't for lack of trying, I promise you.
Like in Wilbur, they're here.
David and Pryor?
Yeah.
Meyer?
Let's see you wait.
Meyer.
We're talking about that Kelly Dolly's calling right now.
And that's a quorum.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Harold has them coming. I'd like to call the March meeting of Board of Regents to order. Ms. Carolyn, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Regent Adley is absent. Regent Chabert.
Here.
Regent David.
Here.
Regent Ewing.
Here.
Regent Kenny is absent. Regent Levy is absent. Regent McDonald.
Here.
Regent Meyer. Regent Perez.
Here.
Regent Pryor.
Here.
Regent Seal.
Here.
Regent Solomon.
Here.
Regent Temple.
Here.
Regent Tennyson is absent. And Regent Weil.
Here.
And Regent Wyatt is absent. But we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Carolyn, we appreciate it. Now we move on to the public comment section. Does anyone in the public have anything to come up and comment about? Going once?
There
Going-
were, there were no,
There were no,
no, sir.
nothing posted. Thank you so much. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda on the item, and that is, members, you have received a copy of the February minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from February 27th, 2019 meeting? Moved by Regent McDonald, second by Regent Weil. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion passes. Next, we're going to move to reports and recommendations of the standing committees. Do we have a motion? I think Regent Temple, you wanted to make a motion?
Yes, I did. Make a motion.
He wants to move that we move, take the committee reports in global. Hearing none, motion carries. Next, you want to do that? Yeah, why don't you do that?
All right.
And then I'll do it.
Okay. So the chairman has asked that I bring forth the next item, which is the recommendations for the Revenue Estimating Conference. As you know, statute requires that if there is a vacancy of the economist on the REC, that it falls to the Board of Regents to bring a slate of 3 to 5 faculty members, in-state faculty members with forecasting experience forward. The list of the slate has to be sent to the governor, the Senate president, and the House Speaker for their consideration and selection of the next economist principal rather, to the REC. So we did seek, as we are required to do, recommendations from LACU. They are specifically articulated in statute. We also asked the other public institution system presidents for recommendations. We interviewed all of the recommendations that were brought forward to us. And you have before you today the slate of 3 nominees. Dr. Stephen Barnes, who was nominated from LSU, Dr. Gregory Upton Jr., nominated by LSU, Dr. Gary Wagner, nominated by the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. All of them meet the requirements of forecasting expertise, and we are pleased to bring the slate forward for your consideration.
Thank you, Chairman. And this was, the Commissioner, Regent Levy, and I sat on a committee and did a full interview, and we took this very, very seriously, and we're going to submit these three names to, up for the, do I have a motion to submit the three names, Dr. Stephen Bourne, Dr. Gregory, and Dr. Gary Wagner?
So moved.
As not moved by Regent Perez, second by Regent Temple. Any discussion on it?
Chairman, these, how do the, for those of us who don't know how the sausage
Okay.
is made, how does the position get compensated for the work, or how does, so it's really just an honor and they volunteer their time and that?
Yeah, and Jim Richardson's been there for what, 30?
Over 30 years.
I know when I was in the
That's
Senate, he
impressive.
was there, because I used to be proxy sometimes for Senator Nunes when he was president.
And so they each understand that? And
They all understand that, we
long-term
discussed
commitment
all
to
of
it?
that,
Wow.
and it's a privilege and an honor to be that guy.
I bet.
You know, Senator you.
But it is an extremely important position because so many times their expertise has a big influence from the information that they can bring and their evaluation of the proposals that are presented by the administration, by the Legislative Office Committee, and their evaluation. I mean, a lot of times the President or the Speaker of the House, they come in here and they got their pants are on fire about something else. But this person usually can bring you to the point that helps you make a good decision about what the revenues are supposed to be, factual. And you don't play with this game. I mean, they're playing with it right now on the downside, but you do not overestimate that and get yourself in a gar hole real quick on out there in about 6 months. This is an extremely important position in government. And it looks to me from reading all this, these guys have been around the block more than once.
They have.
And nothing else, they know how to write. Never saw so many articles. I mean, what do they do the rest of the time?
All the candidates that we interviewed were extremely impressive, and they all had, like you said, great writing skill. They all published doctors, and I can't emphasize how important this is, and how this guy's the most non-political guy, and that's what, I want to commend Dr. Richardson for the job that he's done, because he has never taken a political position. He's always done what the numbers told him to do. And that's what we're looking for in the next guy. And I think the three, we can feel real comfortable as a board submitting these three names to the governor. And so any further discussion? Senator Ewing?
Not on that, but I was going to make a suggestion. Dr. Richardson has served very well. And I think it would be nice if we could get a letter from the Board of Regents commending him for his lifelong service through ups and downs. And many of you may remember that you won't remember, but in 1987, you won't remember either. He wrote the first book on fiscal reform.
That's right.
And we ain't got it yet. But he laid out the map.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, we can certainly handle that. We have a motion on the floor, and it's been second. Any discussion? Blake, you have any? Any objection? Hearing none, the motion to submit these names have passed. Next, we're going to move on to the chairman's comments, which I'm going to be very brief. I had, as I've said many, many times before, my passion is being with the students. I love being around them. I've served on 3 boards, and every board that I've served on, I always tell my fellow board members, we got to remember why we're here. We're here for the students. And I was fortunate when I was in college, I got to be on the SGA, and y'all have heard this story before, but I like to go wherever the presidents are, and whenever they have something that's important to them, I like to go to show them how important it is from our perspective. And I represent each and every one of you when I do that, and I tell them when we go that, I'm here on behalf of the Board of Regents. I want to thank Nikki and Harold and our staff. They've done such a great job, but we got Commissioner Darden that was a couple of weeks ago that went and visited with them. He's an SGA president, and he feels the same as I do. And it just gives these kids hope that, hey, one day you're going to be a commissioner of administration, or you're going to be a senator, you're going to be a rep, you're going to be a commissioner of higher education, you're going to be a president of your university. The guy that was president when I was in SGA is John Weeman. He's a Supreme Court justice, and bought out of bet good money back then that would have never happened. But he's one of the best. He's one of the best guys I've ever been around.
Strike from the record.
Yeah, for the record.
Strike from the record.
But no, people would have bet on me either. But anyway, we had a great discussion, and to listen to what these kids have to offer is amazing. And I encourage any of you, anytime y'all around the universities, if y'all can drop in to the SGA office and just have a chat with them. We're very fortunate. He's not here today, but Anthony Kenny is our representative, and he does it so well. And I just saw on our break on Twitter where he posed with his cap and gown, and I know where he came from, and I know where he's going. And that's the gratitude of sitting in this chair. That's what I want each and every one of us to aspire for, to where we see each of them kids with a cap and gown, because they will be productive citizens, and they will be our future leaders. So with that, we getting ready to go into session. I want to thank our staff. They have worked so hard. Terrence, Matt, Nikki, the whole crew, Uma, Matt, whoever else I've missed, Chris, all of y'all have prepped us so well. And you know, board members, you don't know what these people go through in a day. And I watch these lunch and learns, and I follow the commission every day on Twitter, and I follow the Board of Regents on Twitter, and it amazes me how much time they spend prepping for legislative session and getting things ready. So thank you, staff. It really means a lot to us. Stephanie, I'm looking, now that I got the tears out my eyes, I can see you. Anyway, next we're going to move on to the commissioner's report.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, to all of the members for a really robust conversation and for providing excellent guidance and great questions this morning. So grateful to each and every one of you. Remember that we are continuing to seek your input, so if you have line edits or other thoughts about the master plan, please share that. My report today is the commissioner's brag. I followed the comments of the chairman in terms of bragging on the staff. First of all, we last month had a service project focused on literacy. You see in the bottom right, we had 15 staff, including staff from LASFA and Regents, show up to promote literacy of sort of Read Across Baton Rouge Day for Regents. The staff collected hundreds of books, new and gently used books, donated to 4 schools, and visited one school to read to students collectively, and then I had a chance to visit some other students. So we went to Dufrock Elementary, Baton Rouge Center for Visual and Performing Arts, Bruley Elementary School received books, and Crystal Ray as well. So I'm grateful to the staff and certainly our graduate student, Malin Baker, who put together this fantastic event. The chairman mentioned Lunch and Learns. The Lunch and Learn for last month was around the Welcome Team, and the Welcome Team is put together by staff to do a professional, intentional onboarding of new employees to the Board of Regents. So they have put together a plan. It's sort of a day one welcome, and then multiple months out to make sure that we make sure people understand the culture and the environment and how to support new employees who join us. And so I want to thank Stephanie and Tanisha and Michelle Brandon and Christine and Janet Newhall for being sunshine in a bottle welcome team for the Board of Regents. They're doing phenomenal work. Continuing the brag, Dr. Lisa Vosper, pictured there for the selfie. She is president of LAWHE, the Louisiana Association of Women in Higher Education. They had a conference last week in Alexandria, had a powerhouse speaker, and Stephanie Finley, a U.S. attorney, working for the Justice Department, who is a former colonel in the Air Force. Over 200 women were present. I heard wonderful feedback about the conference. I had a conflict in New Orleans, but I did send a video, and then I made it the next day, which was the conference for the Louisiana colleges and universities. There I had an opportunity to talk to and hear from students, which is, as we mentioned, something that we all love to do, but also I had the amazing opportunity to present and accept on Governor Blanco's behalf the 2019 Pacesetter Award to her, Trailblazer Award to Governor Blanco. Unfortunately, she was not feeling well that day and couldn't be there, but it was a great opportunity. And the student panel was really interesting because they talked about who are the faculty, to this point about mentors, who are the faculty who have made a difference in your life? And so it was fascinating to hear them talk about how meaningful those deep engagement and relationships are for them as students. My brag continues. Janet Newhall led our Louisiana team, who went to Charleston 2 weeks ago to join, as I mentioned, 30 other states that are focused on youth apprenticeship work. And the Louisiana team included K-12 and higher ed, G&O Inc., Board of Regents as well, and the Workforce Commission. So we will be keeping you up to date on the work that we want to do on work-based learning. You see that we have a legislative resolution that we asked Senator Appel to carry, but this is something that we see as important as we think about blurring lines between K-12, higher ed, and workforce. And then finally, again, shout out to Matt and Tanisha and Stephanie for supporting the Governor's Workforce and Education Subcabinet. We meet monthly. It is a place for a cross-agency conversation around policies to leverage people from poverty into completion, into a credential. And so we met on yesterday, had a fantastic conversation, received a report from CLASP around how to leverage people from public benefits, TANF, SNAP, child care, tax credits into a completion, a credential of value. So we will continue to bring you up to date on that work. Now that CLASP has brought their report forward, we have an implementation team of state agency leaders that will be working on how to drive this work forward. But again, none of this would be possible without a very focused and engaged and snappy, smart staff that is very focused on this work. And so I appreciate and echo the chairman's comments about my appreciation for their fantastic work. That completes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I would be remiss not to say how much this commissioner does. It just blows my mind every day trying to keep up with her, and it's hard. She and I commend the staff because I know it's hard for the staff to keep up with her. It's hard for me to follow on Twitter. But anyway, thank you so much for all you do. And a couple of the regents and I were in the hall a little while ago, and we were talking. And the thing that I took the most out of today with our developmental deal was it's a vision. We need a vision for higher education. And I think that's the message we need to put out. And we need to find a way, and I have all the confidence in the world that you will find a way to mold that message and bring, because, you know, next week we go back to the big league. We go across the street, and I'm going to be there every day. And we'll be listening and learning. And I just told the commissioner, I got a group of guys that we hang around with, and we joke and laugh about it, things we do, and we tease about how we used to go to the camp and drink and all that. And now we text each other and tell them what kind of medicine we're taking and what hurts. But we always send this little different, oh, that's our student member right there. We always find something to positive to say. And I just got this, and it says, don't find fault, find a remedy. It says, fix the problem, not the blame. And it's time for us to quit blaming everybody else. It's time for us to step up, to show our vision. We got a new board, we got a new commissioner. I am so excited. The staff is fired up, and you know, we ready to roll. I'm ready to roll, and I hope you are too. But Anthony, you just missed. I just
my apologies, man.
Gave him the spill about how the SGA, the Council of Student Body Presidents, and how proud I was. I saw you in that cap. I'm gonna cry again. I was so proud to see you with that cap and gown, and knowing where you come from and know where you're going. And this board is just so proud of you. And it's been such a pleasure having you serve with us on this board.
I definitely want to say, man, kind of emotional day. We took our graduation pictures. I know it might not mean most of you. It mean a lot to me. I'm a first generation college student, so I'm first in my family to go to college, go to HBCU, be involved, be a part of a Greek life fraternity, SGA president. So it's definitely everything I've done so far is they lived it. My parents and my family that lived their experiences through me, because they didn't have that opportunity. So it's definitely been a awesome experience, and I don't want to cry. But I know this is not my last meeting, so don't try to throw it on me now. But thank y'all for being such a
We are so proud of you.
Yes, sir.
We are so proud of you. Okay, any other business to come before the board? Yeah. Okay, then the next meeting will be a 2-day meeting, April 23rd and 24th. So mark your calendars accordingly. No other business. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So move. Second. Any objection? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.